Hello from OG Benchmarks. In this video, I want to answer the question, is Cinebench a reproducible benchmark? Cinebench is maybe the most popular CPU benchmarking software. It is widely used by the big-name YouTubers who are measuring the performance of the latest and greatest CPUs on the market. If you are watching this video, then I'm sure you have seen some of these channels. When these channels perform these benchmarks, they often say things like, one result is within error of another. That raises a question. What is error on Cinebench? I admit that I'm not going to properly define the error on a Cinebench score, but I do want to see how reproducible these numbers are from one score to another. Well, we're going to do some benchmarking here, so let's quickly review my equipment and test bench. I'm going to benchmark Xeon X3450. This is a 4-core, 8-thread Nehalem CPU. The motherboard has an LGA 1156 socket and an H55 chipset. The CPU cooler is a Cooler Master Hyper 212 Black Edition. I have 8 GB of RAM, an adequate power supply, a low-end GT240 GPU because this Xeon has no integrated graphics, an SSD with Cinebench R23 and some other software to monitor things like CPU power, speed, and temps. This is my typical setup. I've benchmarked the X3450 before. Here's a screen grab of the Cinebench R23 results. That's a 501 on the single core and 2341 on the multi-core. The plan for this study, if you can call it that, is to run through the single core benchmark 10 times. So then we'll do the multi-core 10 times and see what the results look like. Bam, through the magic of YouTube, here are the results. On the left are the single core scores. All are 502 or 503. That's pretty darn consistent. On the right are the multi-core scores. Those numbers have a bit more spread, but the magnitude of the numbers is also larger. The highest score was a 2343 and the lowest was 2336. These scores represent data, and it's always good practice to visualize data by some graphical means before drawing any conclusions. Here is a bar chart of the single core scores. Not too exciting, but these scores do imply that Cinebench R23 is highly reproducible. The mean of these scores is 502.5. The standard deviation, which is a measure of scatter in a data set, is 0.53. If your data follow a normal distribution, the range defined by the mean, that's x bar plus or minus the standard deviation, that sigma, will include approximately 69% of the sample data, with about half of the remainder, a bit over 15%, above this range, and I got that backwards, that was below this range, and about half, 15%, above this range. These statistical measures are more useful with larger data sets, certainly more observations than just 10. As a percentage of the mean, our standard deviation is only about 0.1%. Is that good or bad? That's not an easy question to answer, but it's a far smaller standard deviation, far less scatter, than I expected to see in these scores. I mean, it's hard to imagine that the scores could possibly be much more reproducible than this bar chart shows. Here are the multi-core scores. They don't look as uniform, but the standard deviation from this data set is actually smaller relative to relative to the mean on a percentage basis, 0.8%, than the single core scores, There is some spread, but it's very small. Very reassuring. When someone is covering Cinebench scores and says that the results are within error, then those results are indeed just about right on top of each other. Back to the original question, is Cinebench a consistent benchmark? I'd say an emphatic yes. If scores are below 1,000, then you can probably expect benchmark scores to fall within 3 or 4 points of each other. Larger scores will have larger spreads, but these results do seem very reproducible. Of course, that's not a huge surprise. If Cinebench were not reliable, then people would not stick with it. Regardless, how you run the benchmarks does matter. Cinebench is not the only variable. Be sure to turn off as many background applications as possible. I turn off Wi-Fi so applications won't do any auto updates. When comparing CPUs, things like adequate thermal paste application and proper CPU cooler mounting are also factors to consider. Alright, so Cinebench looks pretty solid. I'll certainly keep using it in future videos. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If so, please consider subscribing, liking, or leaving a comment. Take care.